What's up? It is Melissa T, the procrastination bully, with an offer for you. I am announcing a winter sale for the Getting the Win gear store. If you're someone, you've seen our shirts, you like the gear, you like what we're saying, hashtag get on that, hashtag luxury item, all the good things. If you're familiar with these catchphrases and you love them, they resonate with you, go to gettingthewingear.com. I've got a new winter collection that has launched. And I've got some new items there as well. Not just the winter collection, but a few other new items as well. So if you're someone who's navigated a trauma or transition, or if you're just somebody that's looking to beat procrastination in your own life and you want the clothing with the message to remind you that you are a winner and a go-getter, head over to gettingthewingear.com for all your swag. Use the code WINTER for 20% off your order. That's the code WINTER at checkout. If you're somebody that has a story in you, you already know you've got one, you do want to publish the book, but you're not quite sure how to reach others with it, I'm going to lay the groundwork for how to take your message and turn it into a ministry or a movement. So if that's something that you've had on your heart or something you've been curious about, today's episode is for you. Good evening. Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal-getters. Welcome back to another edition of the Getting the Win Show. I'm your host, Melissa T, the procrastination bully. And of course, our mission with this show is to help women who have navigated a trauma or transition get and find healing through writing and publishing their first book. So I'm helping you get unstuck and published. From ideation to publication, I got you. Now, to start off, let's talk about how to even get from having a message to getting a ministry or a movement. And so I'm going to go over some things to consider before you even go there, right? So I talk a lot about my framework that I guide authors through. And this part here, in terms of defining your message and figuring out how to make it into a message or a movement, is found in my foundation step. This goes back to being clear on your book's purpose. What do you want your book to do? That's one. And who is your target reader? That one avatar that you create with a name, the person's lifestyle, where they live, their academic background, their economic background, what their future ambitions are, all the things. This comes down to what reader you're trying to reach and what purpose you want for your book. So if you decide that you want your book to be made into a ministry or a movement, first of all, define that, because those are two slightly different things. Slightly. When we say ministry, that's more on the faith-based side, depending on your faith. Ministry or a movement. A movement doesn't necessarily have to be faith-based. A ministry is faith-based. So that's number one, getting clear on that distinction. Okay. So what do you want it to be? A ministry? What do you want it to grow into? A ministry or a movement? And then once you're clear on that, if you're choosing movement, then your options are going to be a bit different. Your strategy will be a little bit different, not too much, but a little bit different. There's some nuances there. And of course, getting crystal clear on who that target reader is, because that's going to determine the language you use in your marketing and in your approach, and even in your book, the way you speak to your reader in the book. So if you want that message to become a ministry or a movement, here's the next step in the process. You've chosen whether ministry or movement. And now that you've chosen that, let's go back to the message, the main thesis of your book, the main lesson or the core idea that you want to tackle, the core problem that you want to solve for your reader. This is another question I always ask my authors in that foundation step. What problem does your book solve for your reader? That's going to be your core idea. So once you're clear on the core idea, the problem that you want your book to solve for your reader, then it's a lot easier to craft that message and then turn it into a movement. So let's say, for instance, you are a woman who has navigated healing from domestic violence. You've recovered from the abuse. You were able to leave the relationship and you were able to recover from the abuse. So perhaps the core idea of your book is recovery. Like you're teaching your next reader, your ideal reader, how to recover from abuse, how to escape and heal from abuse, right? You decide to go the movement route instead of the ministry route. Okay, so this is our example. Now that you've made that decision, here's how you can do that. You can start by researching organizations that are connected to your message. And if we're talking domestic violence, there's plenty of them. Just in the United States alone, there's plenty of them. So you can research organizations that tackle the domestic violence support. So domestic violence support groups, nonprofit organizations that provide perhaps counseling for domestic abuse survivors, certain organizations that provide like physical resources, organizations that provide a jobs pipeline of financial assistance in that way. Not financial assistance in terms of donating to domestic abuse survivors, but that help domestic abuse survivors get back on their feet financially. Because one of the elements of domestic abuse is financial abuse, in which the abuser controls all of the money. So there are some organizations that can assist domestic abuse survivors with that, helping them find work, connecting them with recruiters or employers so they can get back on their feet. So that's that next step. You've gotten clear on your message, you're clear on your target reader, you've chosen between ministry and movement. And in this one, we've chosen movement. The next step is researching organizations that are relevant to the movement you want to create. And this is the time where an AI tool is going to be helpful for the next step. Okay. In this next step, you can use an AI tool such as Google Gemini or ChatGPT or Perplexity.ai, something that's going to give you a detailed search results, and ask it to compare these organizations that serve the same message or movement that you want to get into, and ask the AI tool to list the differences or list the gaps, the things that the organizations don't do. And this is where you are going to be able to come in, because if you find out what these organizations don't offer, you can then compare that to what your expertise is and how you can fill those gaps. Okay? So that's the next thing, essentially market research. You're using your AI tool to do market research to find out where the gaps are so you can fill them, or fill one, because all it takes is for you to be able to fill one. Case in point, this is not in terms of a movement, but just from a business standpoint. A case in point is the difference between Canva and Kittl. If you're familiar with those two services, they're both graphic design platforms. The difference is, while Canva for the longest did offer an AI design tool, it was very clunky and it wasn't very user-friendly. And the results that it would spit out were not satisfactory. Like a lot of people that were using Canva's AI design tool were dissatisfied. They were frustrated with it. Kindle filled that gap because their AI tool works much faster, is much more user-friendly, and can produce great-looking designs based on what's trending in the market. So Kittl found a gap, solved the problem, and then put a whole bunch of money into advertising. So their ads are all over YouTube. So a lot of folks that were interested in creating e-commerce businesses went to Kittl because Kittl filled the gap. As a result of Kittl's existence, Canva has now updated and iterated on its AI design tool. So now it is much better. So now those who have subscribed to Canva don't necessarily have to also separately pay for Kittle. By the way, you're looking at somebody that has both for that reason. Like, I was frustrated with Canva's AI tool. I went to Kittle. It's a little easier to use. Once Canva's AI tool is a bit better, then by all means, I can shut down the Kittle account and just stick with Canva because I'm already subscribed there, right? So that's an example of filling a gap, finding where a gap is, and then finding a way to fill it. So use your AI tool to do that search. Type in domestic violence, healing from domestic violence or surviving domestic violence, nonprofits that help domestic violence survivors, and ask the AI tool to find the gaps, find what those organizations don't provide, and find an opening based on your own expertise and what you want to be able to do for your target reader. And then you get to offer that. You will move forward in your marketing with that particular difference, with that particular unique selling proposition or USP. You fill that gap. And that's what's going to cause people to raise their eyebrows. Like, oh, you offer this? You know what I mean? So moving into the next step, because obviously marketing is going to be its own thing. I'm going to skip over marketing for right now in the strategy. It's there, but I'm going to skip over that step real quick. The common thought going forward in terms of networking, which would be the next thing, in terms of networking, the common thought would be to network with those organizations, right? With the existing domestic violence organizations. And while that is an idea, because building relationships is important, the idea that's not as commonly taught, but is very important for you in this step, is now that you know the gap you're filling, look for organizations that you are complementary to. So say, for instance, in this example, your thesis is helping women heal from domestic violence. The regular organizations are your typical domestic violence survivor organizations. They're offering counseling, they're offering physical resources, they're offering job connections or career connections. But let's talk about some peripheral organizations, such as food banks. Someone who's a domestic violence survivor may be struggling to find some place to live, or because of the financial abuse situation that they're just coming out of, purchasing groceries might be a challenge. So this is a peripheral organization that is complementary to you. That's an idea. That's an organization you can connect with. Let's talk about some tech organizations. Perhaps there are tech brands, tech companies that want to do community outreach. Perhaps these are organizations that you can connect with because, to the point of career advancement, somebody that has just survived and has come out of an abusive relationship needs the technology to go with whatever that career path is going to be that they're going to go on next, right? So let's say a company that deals with tablets, or a company that provides phone service like Consumer Cellular or something like that. Consumer Cellular is more so for seniors, but that's just an example. So a tech company, because everybody needs a phone. And if you're going to run a business, at the very least, you're going to either need a tablet or a laptop. And you're also likely going to need a Wi-Fi hotspot. So if you have Wi-Fi at home, or even if you don't, at the very least, you'll have a Wi-Fi hotspot so you can work from your computer or your phone or your tablet, right? So tech companies, that's a complementary idea, or tech organizations. That's an idea, a complementary idea for you to connect with, not just your typical domestic violence survivor organizations. Clothing companies, or companies that offer secondhand clothing, so like a Goodwill, Salvation Army, Plato's Closet, organizations like these. They're great organizations to create relationships with because, again, talking about the career path, women that are out of these relationships, they need to look the part, right? They need a fresh look. They're going to want to change their look a bit, turn a new leaf. Fashion is a thing like that. This is an option. So this peripheral organization is an option as well. So these are all examples just to get the ball rolling in your head, the juices flowing in terms of what does she mean by complementary organizations. Organizations like these that are not directly domestic violence survivor organizations, but organizations that would still feed into those domestic violence organizations that you can talk to directly because you're going to fill a gap. You've already researched all those organizations, the domestic violence survivor ones, found out what their gaps were, and you know what your unique proposition is, the thing that's going to separate you from them. Again, still network with these organizations because you want to build relationships, and maybe some folks within these organizations are feeling benevolent enough to share that information with you. Because the thing about organizations that already do what you're going to do is some of them are going to have a fear of competition. They're going to smell that, sniff that out when you're talking to them. So this is why I mention the lesser taught skill, which is research peripheral organizations. These guys are going to be partners for you that will fill the gap still for your target reader. And you can create even deeper relationships with these organizations because they're not going to see you as a competitor. You're not doing what they do, right? So you have a bit more latitude here. Okay. So I'm going to recap real quick because I know this is a lot. I'm giving you a lot. So in the foundation step, we clarify who our target reader is, what we want our book to do, and what problem our book solves for our reader, right? And of course, with that problem solving thing, when we answer what problem we want our book to solve, we get clear on the message, what the book's message is going to be. From there, you decide, do you want this to be a ministry or a movement? Pick one of those two. If it's going to be a ministry, then you would research other ministries that also target what you're doing. So faith-based nonprofits, churches that have programs that offer these things, right? Programs that offer counseling for women, women's ministries in different churches, or if there are other spiritual faiths that offer such groups, you would research all of that accordingly. If it's a movement, you're looking at nonprofit organizations, faith-based and secular. You're looking at all of them. You use the AI tool. This next step here applies whether you're doing ministry or movement. You're using your AI tool. You're telling your AI tool what your movement is, like what your thesis is, rather, what the thing is that you're solving for your reader, asking it to find all the nonprofits in your region, and then asking it to compare and find out what those organizations don't provide, so you create an opening for yourself and find out what you can do to separate yourself from those organizations. From there, you'll get into your marketing messaging. That's the step I haven't gotten to yet. I skipped over that. But the marketing messaging will be the next thing. Following that, you then do your research for peripheral complementary organizations, ancillary organizations. And you can type that into your AI tool as well. If you have no idea where to start, you can ask the AI tool, like, okay, this is what I've decided I'm doing. I want to turn this into a movement. What other organizations can I partner with? Or what organizations would be a great fit to work with me and my message, aside from these stereotypical or these typical organizations? Your AI tool will spit that out for you too. It'll share what other types of companies would be interested or are already seeking out people that are doing what you intend to do with your book and with your movement. Here's the next step. In a previous episode, I talked about the non-traditional yearly calendar, the non-traditional holiday calendar. Research holidays in those non-traditional calendars that are connected to your topic. So if we're talking in this example about domestic abuse survival, there is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, which is October, but there are other non-traditional holidays connected to that. So you can even go back around to a month like March, where you have International Women's Day there. All of March is Women's History Month. There are plenty of women who have made history who are domestic abuse survivors. So that's an idea. So using your non-traditional holiday calendar, ask the AI tool for that as well. It'll save you time. Look up non-traditional holidays that are connected to your message, that are connected to the problem you're trying to solve for your reader. And the AI will even ask you a follow-up question. Would you like me to create a marketing calendar for you with ideas on how you can create offers? You can tell it yes. Okay. Or would you like me to create a challenge for you? You can tell it yes. Or you can ask it, like, okay, based on what you just told me with these non-traditional holidays that are relevant to my message, how can I create a challenge? Or how can I turn this into a fun movement that my target reader will want to get behind? Let the AI tool be your thought partner, which is literally what the AI tools are supposed to be. They're meant to be our thought partners. They're not supposed to do all of our writing for us or all of our thinking for us. They're meant to be thought partners. You spit out an idea, it spits out one. It follows up with you. It asks questions. You ask questions. So go back and forth. Okay? When you find the idea for the movement or a challenge, whether it's a 30-day challenge, a 21-day challenge, a 7-day challenge, whatever time frame you like, or whatever time frame the AI is recommending to you based on what's trending, based on what other popular speakers or coaches are doing in your genre, in your category, you can create something for yourself that will then attach to your book. So coming back to our example, you've chosen to target women who are domestic abuse survivors. You've chosen to make a movement from your message. You've asked your AI tool, like, okay, let's create a movement out of this. Let's research what is trending from people who are already speaking in this space. What would work? Do I create a 30-day challenge? Do I create a 21-day challenge? Do I do something for 7 days? Do I create a challenge that is all virtual? Do I create a challenge where the women do something physically? Here's an example of a physical one. And this I gathered from simply a video clip, something really short. I believe I saw it on Instagram, either Instagram or TikTok. It was Instagram. It was literally a quick clip of women shedding weighted vests. If you're familiar in the fitness space, you know weighted vests are a whole thing now. Like, a lot of people are talking about the benefits of walking or running with either a weighted vest or like a rucksack. They call it rucking. Like, that it's a whole thing now in the fitness space. But in this particular clip, it was a women's retreat, and the dropping of the weighted vests was the culmination of the retreat. They had just finished their walk or their jog, and the weighted vest was meant to represent all of the weight that they didn't need to carry anymore. The weight of other people's expectations, the weight of their own unrealistic expectations, the weight of disappointments, the weight of unforgiveness, the weight of grudges. The vest was meant to symbolize all of those things. And so in the clip, these women were removing the vests and they were in tears as they removed them because it was cathartic. The weighted vest was such a powerful symbol during that retreat. So this is an idea just to share with you in terms of turning your message into a movement, and particularly with our example of the domestic violence survivor. That's an idea for a movement or a challenge that you can create. Let's just say for the purpose of this example, the gap you saw in the domestic violence organizations, the thing that they're not quite filling to satisfaction is perhaps personal development, like developing a woman's strong, firm sense of confidence in a way that is unshakable. Because with any major transformation is the threat of being pulled back into our old behaviors or our old mindsets, right? Let's just say, for the example, that the organizations you researched, they do amazing things, but there may be, like, the gap that you saw there is the risk of women falling back into their old thought patterns. And you, in your transition, your experience, your survival of the abuse, you found a way to not only overcome the mindset, but you found a way to make it stick. And that's going to be your differentiating factor. Then you create your challenge to craft messages that teach women different mindset shifts. Maybe your movement not only includes written content that you would share over more written platforms like Threads or X, if you still use X, aka Twitter, or Blue Sky if you're using that as an alternative. Maybe you're doing quick video messages. A great example of this is our girl Jas Abraham, who is the boundaries coach. She does 30-second videos that she drops on TikTok and Instagram. And the segment is simply called Boundaries Be Like, or My Boundaries Look Like. And it's simply 30 seconds where she shares a boundary that she uses and practices in her life. And then what she does is she ends it with BAM, which it's not just a sound effect. BAM is literally the name, it's the acronym for her podcast, which is Boundaries and More. So 30 seconds, she shares a boundary that she practices in real life. BAM. So it hammers the name of the podcast into your memory. And she's dropping these regularly, right? So this is an idea because she's creating a movement to help folks who struggle with boundaries speak up for themselves. And in sharing the boundaries that she uses in her real life, she's offering actual value by saying, this is what I use. It'll work for you. Just in case you don't know what boundaries to come up with, I got you. I'm going to give you 30-second examples on a regular basis every week. Because she does multiple of these 30-second videos per week. It's not just one a week. And there you go. Like, you're giving value. In her example, she's giving value. So for your movement with this domestic violence example, it can be 30-second videos like that, where you're dropping tips or mindset ideas, mindset concepts for your target reader, your target audience, to shift their mindset in a way that will stick. You're teaching them what you learned to make it stick. So it can be a series of videos. It can be a series of pieces of written content on social media. It can be developed into a course that you then create. That would be your flow into an upsell, like you upsell them into a course. Or if you don't want something like a course, perhaps you upsell them into a community where they'll pay a membership, a monthly membership, and you provide the support directly in that way. And in your community, because you already did the work of researching those complementary organizations, those ancillary organizations, and you've created relationships with them, perhaps within the community, since they're paying to be a part of it, you then connect them with the organizations that you develop relationships with so that they can directly get back on their feet because they know you and they're in your community. Do you see how easily one idea can blossom into something great? So if you have your book, if you have your story in you, or You've been told you should write your book, you should write your story. Get clear on that foundation step, who your target reader is. What problem are you solving for that reader? And what do you want your book to do? Do you want it to be a course? Do you want it to be a business card that gets you booked to speak? Do you want to plan a high ticket retreat? Do you want to do evergreen webinars? That's an idea as well, because there are some people who are still using that business model to this day. You may recognize the name Amy Porterfield. If not, welcome to Amy Porterfield. She is someone who, for well over a decade, has been teaching people how to create courses, evergreen courses. And let me tell you, she is living the model. Her course on teaching people how to create courses is evergreen. Literally. I can tell you that because I subscribed. Like, I'm in that course. The initials are DCA. But yeah, like, her thing is an evergreen course. It teaches you how to craft your course. It teaches you how to create the email marketing sequences for your course. It teaches you how to create your webinars, your webinar flows. It teaches all of that. And it teaches you how to market it, like all the things. Business in a box, essentially. But it's evergreen. It was a one and done for Amy Porterfield. Sure, there are certain things that she'll update. And the beauty of being in her course is you have lifetime access. So when it updates, you get the update as someone who's been in the course already. So that could be an idea for you in terms of what you want your book to do. You could turn it into something that's evergreen. You can turn it into a series of webinars that you run on automation. You know what I mean? That will then upsell the attendees into something else, into your paid community, into a high ticket thing. That's up to you in terms of what you want your book to do. But getting clear on those things on this side, then getting into these other steps that I named. Okay? Now I'm going to wrap up with this marketing one. I'm going to touch on it briefly because, full transparency, y'all, I'm a student of the marketing game myself. I have not mastered it. I'm a student. So I'm learning, and I will share what I learn alongside you. Okay? I will share it with you. So on this marketing side, I did have a video, or a couple videos actually, where I talked about effective ways to market your book. Creating a challenge is one way to market your book. So the 30-day challenge, 21 days, 7 days, 5 days, whatever it is, 3 days, whatever it is, that is a way to market your book. And just to bring it back to the definition of marketing, just so you know it, because marketing can be broad and nebulous and hard to grasp. Essentially, marketing is the science of helping your target person discover a desire for what you're selling, whether it's a product or service. You're helping them discover the desire to buy your thing, which is why a challenge is a great way to market something. Because when you're bringing someone through a challenge, you're giving them a transformation. That is the whole purpose of a challenge, regardless of the time frame. The end promise is a transformation. So if you choose to use a challenge for your domestic violence example, what transformation are they getting by the end of the 30 days or the 21 or the 14 or the 7 or the 3? What is the transformation they're going to get at the end of that? You would make that promise as clear as day across all of the platforms that you're using, whether you're choosing to use LinkedIn and maybe you're just focused on that. If you're on TikTok, maybe you're just focused on that. If you're on YouTube and you're just focused on that, wherever you're spreading your message, make sure that that transformation that you're offering at the end of the challenge is as clear as day, because that's what they're going to be attracted to. So in this example that I used, right, I mentioned that the gap that you found was a mindset shift that sticks. The other organizations in this example didn't offer that. You offer that. So that is what you would promise at the end of your 30-day challenge. We'll use 30 days because it does take a while for a mindset to take root in our minds, right? A shift. It takes a while for a shift to take root in our minds. So let's say you do a 30-day challenge. By the end of it, This is the mindset shift that you will have experienced, and it will stick. By the end of the challenge, you will have offered them an upsell into your paid community, whatever the price point is that you want for your paid community based on your target reader. And then they'll subscribe. You know what I mean? When you get that message in front of enough people. So we're talking marketing. 1, creating a challenge. 2, being seen. So that includes being a guest on people's podcasts. And there are plenty of platforms online that offer that service. So ask your AI tool for those websites that offer the pairings, because there are plenty of platforms that offer podcast hosts to meet and connect with experts, people who have books or people who are speakers or coaches or consultants that need visibility. So you would ask your AI tool to point you to those platforms, or you can just do it bare bones, which, as someone like me who's in the media world, I do it bare bones. I don't necessarily do the matchmaking sites. What I'll do is just ask my AI tool to find me actual podcasts and blog sites that reach to my target audience, who are welcoming guests. They're either welcoming guest blogs, they're welcoming interview guests, that sort of thing, and their contact information. Make sure to ask your AI tool to give you their contact information. It'll list all the online magazines, all the blogs, all the podcasts, all of them, along with the point of contact and the contact information. And from there, you do the reaching out. It's all on you from there. You actually contact them and say, hey, this is what I talk about. I notice you discuss this, this, and this on your show. My subject matter is this. I'd love to be a guest. Or in some cases, what you can do is have your AI tool draft the pitch letter on your behalf. That way it seems like you have somebody. If you're solo and you're doing this on your own, you don't have an assistant, you don't have staff, you can draft a letter so it sounds like somebody's pitching on your behalf, and then shoot that email off to that podcast, that website, that magazine, that news organization, all of the above. And that way you can book interviews. Another approach in terms of being seen and getting press is drafting press releases. And again, this is something you can ask your AI tool to put together for you. What you're going to do, though, both with the pitch letter and the press release, is read back through it and rehumanize it. Make sure the press release sounds like you, like a human being, and not like the AI, because all of AI sounds alike. We can always tell when something's written by AI and when it's not. Okay? So make sure you're reading back over those things and rehumanizing them so they sound like you. Okay? But this is how you turn a message into a movement. You increase the visibility once you're clear on this front stuff. Solve what problem your book solves, who your target reader is, what you want your book to do, and whether or not you want your book to be a ministry or a movement. Picking one of those two and being crystal clear on that. From there, you do all of the rest of these things. And the thing about a movement particularly, this is also true for a ministry, but the thing about a movement in particular, you definitely want catchphrases or your own branded language that will catch on in your target audience's mind. Perfect example for this show, for the Getting the Win brand. Originally, the show was all about productivity, so my catchphrases are very specific. Hashtag get on that, hashtag luxury item, right? I always teach that you are a luxury item. So any goal that is attached to you is your luxury item. This book that you have in you is your luxury item, right? So hashtag get on that, hashtag luxury item. I also have merch that says execute because, of course, I'm all about productivity and moving the needle. So I have execute. One of the new products in my winter collection is a beanie that says words are my wings. There's also a mug that has it. Words are my wings because, of course, I pivoted to authors, right? And I'm talking to women who have navigated a trauma or transition that are seeking healing through writing and publishing their first book. Words are my wings. They're giving me freedom, not only emotional freedom, but also financial freedom when I'm clear on the purpose of my book, right? So developing specific language, this is part of the marketing step as well. Developing clear language and using it repeatedly, using it on social media repeatedly. If you're somebody that's recording videos, make sure to use your unique language, your catchphrases, your unique words repeatedly. A perfect example of this is Lisa A. Smith. You guys, if you've been following the podcast, you've seen her on the show a couple of times. She has very specific language, okay? Eat like you got some sense. And any one of us that supports her, that follows her videos, that follows her ecosystem, we know this. That is her top thing to say. Eat like you got some sense. And she is big on radical obedience. That's her thing. When you hear radical obedience, you think Lisa A. Smith. Okay? And there are other examples of other things that she talks about. But those are just examples, those two. Like you hear those, you immediately think of Lisa. Okay? With me, it's the hashtag get on that, hashtag luxury item. That's my thing. Like, and then of course now execute. Words on my wings. That's the newer one. Another new item that's in my shop is a shirt and an ornament that says I own my narrative. I own my narrative. You own your narrative. So come up with language that is unique to you, unique to the movement you want to create, and use it as often as you can in your social media posts, in your videos, in your conversations. That way, as many people as possible hear your message and can resonate with it. Because even if the person you're talking to in the moment doesn't resonate with it, they'll know somebody that would resonate with your message and refer them to you or refer them to your social media stuff. Okay? So that's going to be very key in your marketing step, developing the language that is unique to you. All right? Hopefully this video was beneficial to you. If it was, be sure to hit that like button so the algo can kick it out to more people. And of course, if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube at Getting the Win. You can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. And I am on TikTok at Melissa T. Writes. You can find me on LinkedIn at Melissa Thomas. Again, 2 L's and 2 S's. Melissa T. Writes, 2 L's, 2 S's. In the meantime and between time, thank you so much for tuning in. Next Wednesday, I am excited, super excited to have an interview for you guys. So be sure to stay tuned next week to catch this interview. And you'll see who it'll be next week. But yeah, be sure to tune in next Wednesday. Make sure you also have a productive rest of your current Wednesday and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.